So yeah, this is what I kind of mean when in that previous video that you're responding to here, that I'm responding to you for, is that you can try it, but it's fake. They, they don't have enough money to pay for any of that, and they never did. Okay, so I mean, like if you're thinking in terms of dollars, which of course is what most people automatically, if you're speaking English, you're probably thinking in terms of dollars. Those dollars don't actually exist. It's fake. There's no way to actually pay that. Dollars are conjured from nothing from central banks. And then the central banks, if I mean, put yourself in this situation. If you were to try and give, for example, healthcare and education to absolutely everybody out there at whatever in their mind they believe that they should have, there isn't any way to pay for any of that. All those other countries that do this, that you mentioned, they do that by inflating the currency and destroying the working class. This is why, for example, the spending power of the US dollar in 1971, the minimum wage was $1.60 an hour, $1.60 per hour. Today, using the gold standard, the same gold standard that existed in 1971, would be $185 an hour. That's why the working class are getting wiped out. That's why the working class can't afford healthcare. And I mean healthcare, I don't mean like healthcare insurance. Take the insurance companies out of it altogether. That'd be the first thing that you would do, is get the insurance companies out of there. And you just treat it the way that like veterinary science is treated. You just pay for it like anything else. And the costs have to come down at that point because of just regular basic market competition. Well, no, doctors will raise their prices. If they want to go to business, sure. But there's going to be somebody who doesn't, and that's the thing. So, and then as far as education, I can assure you, you don't want to have anybody who pays the piper calls the tune. So you wouldn't want, like we already have that. Okay, you already have, the reason education is what it is now is because of guys like Rockefeller funding education. Right? So in other words, kids don't know any of the stuff that we talk about here on my channel, because none of that's taught. It's deliberately not taught. All right? I mean, like that's why you wouldn't want something. Because see, if you're saying, pay for education, Axel, okay, well then I'm gonna do what I think is education or something that benefits me. Right? That's just human nature. In other words, you can't stop people from being human. They're gonna be horrible, disastrous, greedy. I mean, it's just that's the human condition. You're not going to undo that. You're not going to undo the so-called 7 deadly sins. You're not going to undo that with people. It's baked in. It's hardwired into your DNA. Okay, that's why no matter what people do, you will always have gambling junkies. You will always have alcoholics. You will always have drug addicts. You will always have people who just can never get their shit together, no matter how hard they try. Right? Or I mean, that's just kind of it. Or they will self-medicate because they can't do it. I mean, like, this is what I'm saying. So it isn't without compassion that I point this out. I'm pointing out from the financial side, there really isn't a way to do this kind of thing on a wide scale. What you're wanting is really a civilization, a community of like 500 people, 300 to 500 people, which is what most human beings evolved in, is 300 to 500 people. I've heard as low as 150 to 300. I'm going to go say 300 to 500 people in a civilization. Anything beyond that, it gets just too difficult to really care about anybody, right? I mean, like it's the Joe Stalin pointed this out, that when one man dies, it's tragic. When a million die, it's a statistic. He's right about that. I mean, we may not like the way that he puts that, but it's the truth. The human brain can't process a million deaths. Right? I mean, like, it can process one. It can process maybe a handful of stars, or your main protagonist or antagonist in a movie, but the human brain can't process like mega death, basically. I don't mean the band. I'm talking about like Democide, Death by Government, which is what that's called. There's a book called Democide or Death by Government by author Rudy Rommel, and he explains like this is just kind of how this works, and it's beyond what people can actually process. It's so like for example, in the movie Schindler's List, we've all probably seen it. I saw it years and years ago, and it shows the little girl in the red coat. That's on purpose. That's so that the audience can connect with this one little girl, because it's hard for the audience to connect to like a giant swath of people. That's difficult to process something like that. But the audience can connect with a person. So, I mean, that's why like movies that have kind of an everyman type character tend to be successful if the movie is actually well done. It's because the audience can connect. You can put yourself in that situation. So I'm not trying to overtalk that. I'm just pointing out that to your point of like, well, what you're effectively saying is eat the rich, basically, right? I mean, that's effectively what you're saying. We're not saying you have mass graves or anything. You're just saying, hey, well, you tax. The thing is that even if you taxed them at 100%, there isn't enough money to do any of that. And there never was. It's always been an illusion. It's always been just around the corner. There's going to be more. You're going to have all this stuff later. It's how these systems work. It's how all the isms work. Every ism out there, whether it's capitalism, communism, socialism, national socialism, fascism, I don't care what ism you call it. Those are systems of management. Those are farming techniques, and they work differently on different personalities. But they have the same thing in common. Central bankers printing money out of nothing and always giving the illusion that there's something better over the hill. That if you just keep working, if you just keep pushing that boulder over the hill, there's going to be this paradise, this promised land that exists. It doesn't. It doesn't exist. In the Bible, for example, and I'm saying this as an atheist, in the Bible, for instance, the 40 years in the desert thing, that's metaphorical. It's to get rid of the generation of people who felt entitled. That's really what that was about. It would be the equivalent today of getting rid of boomers. That's what it would, I mean, that's seriously, that's what it would be. Getting rid of the entitled generation and then getting to the next generation of people that understand that like, yeah, dude, you're going to actually have to work. Like none of this is, there's no Messiah coming to save you. You're going to have to actually do this stuff yourself, and you can have any civilization you want if you're willing to maintain it. That's the key, if you're willing to maintain it. And it's much easier to hold together a cohesive society than it is to try and hold together a broadly diverse society. I'm not talking about race. This has nothing to do with race. This is just culturally. Okay, I mean, like, that's why there's borders. That's why all this stuff exists. So that's why, like, this kind of stuff, I understand the motivation, and I understand the thought behind it of like, yeah, that these evil rich people have all this money, take all their money, and like, they don't really have it. Like I pointed out, if you were to get rid of the rich, you'd find out there's really nothing there. It's all on paper. It's all fake. In many cases, these are just guys who, a lot of them are actors. I don't mean like actors like Hollywood. That's not the kind of actors I'm talking about. I'm talking about, in the Shakespearean sense, all the world is a stage and we are all actors upon it kind of thing. That's really who a lot of these guys are. They owe more money usually than they even have. If they were in a strong cash position, if most people were in a strong, like, real cash position, they didn't owe anything, they're in the FU position, most people don't do any of the stuff that these people are doing. I sure as hell wouldn't.